Here with Patty Donovan, the head of Music Victoria. How's it going, Patty?
Yeah, good, thanks.
And you've got a pretty long history with the Community Cup.
Yeah, I played about 10 years ago for a few seasons. Back in the day when it was frowned upon if you did any exercise or training, and if you turned up and you didn't reek of booze, and had great memories of sitting on the bench with Ross Knight from the Cosmic Psychos and having a few fags on the bench, and James Manson from Collingwood Premiership players, so it was a bit of a mix, but it was great to play for a few years. But then my mate Friendy popped his Achilles in one game, and my wife said, "No, you're too old for this shit."
Right, because it has become pretty pro these days. They train for months out in advance.
Yeah. The idea of musicians having a healthy regime and getting some exercise and bonding together and a good diet, that's another conversation, I think I'm all for that. But, me and footy and going to see my team play and stuff usually involves a few beers and a few pies and not exercise. But, no, good on the musicians for actually getting fit and, having a healthy lifestyle and all of that. But it has changed a lot in 10 years.
Well, I think it's sort of seen result. It used to be pretty even from memory, and in recent years it seems like it's all rock dogs.
Oh, in terms of who wins?
Yeah.
Yeah, Rock Dogs certainly have a bigger database, a bigger list to pull from. Anyone who's DJ'd a couple of songs on Spotify, seems to get a game. And whereas, radio broadcasters actually have to have some skills and often play, vinyl. But I love the fact that the megahertz, stars are big buffheads like Chris Gill and Stewie Farrell, and they hold their own. They sort of don't look like they're taken too seriously, but they're big fellas and they take some big marks. So, it's always good when it's a close game. And it's good when, one team doesn't dominate for too long.
Yeah, definitely. That's always good for competition. As the head of Music Victoria, what's it like being here at the Espy for the launch and the sort of renovated Espy?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting to be back here. We've just run a live music venues day for all the venues in St Kilda and Port Phillip, and back on the back of the Espy effect, the fact that everyone queues up and can't get in and goes to the other venues if they can't get in. So, St Kilda's fighting back. The council putting some money behind an action plan, and we held that event out here today. So I think it's symbolic, that the Espy Rock Dogs are back, and while the game's not moving south side, I think, it would be good to have the game south side again because streaking's allowed in this municipality, and it seems to be banned in City of Yarra.
Right, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so, we want streakers. We should sort of head back here, and the mayor doesn't mind getting down to his undies either over here. Maybe there's something in that. But no, you've got to mix it round and, south side, north side, there used to not be a divide, and it's sort of emerged in the last 10, 15 years. So, I think the best thing about Community Cup, and, there was some very, great visionaries who sort of set it up, and they said, let's not have a Triple R against PBS, because we all listen to Triple R and PBS, and SYN and other stations, and I think it was a really good idea to get all radio coming together because it can be sort of, those things can be competitive and get the musicians on the other side. I don't know how it ends up with those musicians who trying to get an interview on radio after a fierce game, but no, I think that when you travel around and you'd say rock and rollers and musicians actually follow the football and have a team and go to a game and might wear a doggies jumper on stage. Just doesn't happen anywhere in the world that I'm aware of. You're into sport, you're into art, and I think it's very, very unique to Melbourne.
Because this is now a kind of a national day, the Reclink Cup, but it is still the biggest in Melbourne. And do you think that's part of the reason why?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Aussie rules and sport. I mean, rugby's just a different story. Rugby's, buffheads and male-dominated, up in New South Wales, and 50% of the audience at AFL is female, and grandmothers go. Speak to people from the UK particularly who say it's a no-go zone going to the soccer. It's just, it's fights and brawls and boozing and dividing audiences all over Europe, really, and women just don't feel safe. The fact that AFLW is now, so huge, and males and females are basically all playing footy is even more reason for everyone to get together. And, it was really ahead of its time, really. Community Cup had women playing, years ago before actually AFLW came into being. So I think it's I think it brings people, anything that brings people together, the fact that Community Cup brings, radio stations together and musicians together, but now we've also got, male and females all, getting out there and playing and in the crowd. I just think it's wonderful. I think it's uniquely Melbourne what happens with the Community Cup, and it's great it's happening in other states, and, all power to them. But, you can't even get into the Community Cup anymore. It sells out. People are still rocking up on the day just thinking they'll stroll on in, and, you got to buy a ticket. It's a hot ticket, and who would have thought seeing a bunch of musicians shake a few balls around the oval, would be a sellout 10,000 people. It's amazing.
And finally, who do you predict to win this year? Do you have a margin and a winner?
Depends who's doing the dodgy recruitment, really. Like that might come down to it. Rupert Betheris, Collingwood player, who wasn't a painter, I think. Came on and kicked a couple of years ago. It's easier for the Rock Dogs to pull in some gun recruits than the Megahertz, because you actually have to have a radio show. But I suppose they also have people like Elliot, who used to do a segment on a radio show, and he came in and played as well. So I don't think it should be taken too seriously. As long as the game's pretty close, as long as Chris Gill's out there taking a few pack marks and doing a shimmy after a few goals, I'm happy.
Thanks so much for talking to us, Paddy.
Thank you.